The silver ship Harmony's Edge moved slowly through the outer edge of Earth's solar system. Its hull gleamed like polished metal, smooth and curved without any visible weapons. Inside the bridge, Ambassador Zethkri stared at the data screens with growing confusion. "Show me the human settlements again," he said to his aide. The holographic display lit up, showing Mars first. The red planet was covered in domed cities connected by underground tunnels. But what caught Zethkri's attention were the massive gun platforms floating in orbit around Mars. Each one was bigger than his entire ship, and bristled with weapons that could destroy a small moon. "Maybe they are at war with someone," suggested Counselor Nimara from across the bridge. She was from the Ethereal Collective, a race of beings made of pure energy who had given up physical violence millions of years ago. "With whom?" Zethkri replied. "Our scouts have been watching this system for 2 years. The humans have no enemies, no alien invasions, no hostile neighbors. They are completely alone in this corner of space." The display switched to show Jupiter's moons. Europa had underwater cities protected by orbital defense stations. Titan had research bases surrounded by missile launchers. Even the small mining operations on asteroids had armed guard ships patrolling nearby. "Look at this," said Dr. Vexilon, the expedition's scientist. His forearms moved quickly over his control panel. "Every single human ship carries weapons. Even their cargo vessels have military-grade shields and plasma cannons." Zethkri rubbed his smooth blue forehead. In his 300 years as a diplomat, he had made contact with 47 different species. Most of them had gone through a violent phase early in their development, but they had all grown out of it before reaching the stars. Wars became pointless when you had entire planets to live on. But humans were different. They had somehow developed faster-than-light travel, terraforming technology, and advanced artificial intelligence, yet they still acted like primitive warriors preparing for battle. "Perhaps they are simply young," offered Commander Talnine from the ship's crew. "Some species need more time to mature past their violent instincts." "Young?" Dr. Vexilon pulled up another display. "They went from first flight to interplanetary colonies in less than 200 years. That's faster than any species on record. They should be the most advanced, peaceful civilization we've ever encountered." The ship passed by Earth's moon. Luna Station hung in orbit like a giant metal flower, its docking arms reaching out to accept visiting ships. But even the space station looked more like a fortress than a diplomatic center. Weapon turrets dotted its surface, and patrol ships moved in constant circles around it. "Incoming transmission," announced the ship's computer. A human face appeared on the main screen. The woman wore a dark blue uniform with shiny metal decorations on her chest. Her hair was pulled back tight, and her eyes were sharp and alert. "Welcome to the Sol system," she said. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command. We are honored to receive the Galactic Council's first contact delegation." Zethkri stood and smoothed his diplomatic robes. "Greetings, Admiral Chen. I am Ambassador Zethkri of the Veltar Confederation. We appreciate your hospitality. We have prepared Docking Bay 7 for your arrival. Please follow the escort ships to Luna Station." 6 sleek fighters appeared around Harmony's Edge. They were small but moved with deadly grace, their weapons clearly visible but not actively targeting the alien ship. "Escort ships," whispered Nimara. "Do they think we're dangerous? Or maybe they think someone else is," replied Zethkri quietly. As they approached Luna Station, the aliens got their first close look at human military preparation. The space station was massive, easily capable of housing 50,000 people. But it was also clearly designed for war. Thick armor plating covered every surface. Gun ports opened and closed like mechanical eyes. Shields shimmered around the entire structure. "Ambassador," said Dr. Vexilon, "I'm detecting weapon systems that could destroy an entire fleet. Why would a peaceful first contact station need such firepower?" Zethkri had no answer. In all his years of diplomatic service, he had never seen anything like this. Most species built their first contact stations to look welcoming and peaceful. They wanted to show visiting aliens that they were civilized and friendly. But Luna Station looked ready for invasion. The docking process took 30 minutes. Human technicians guided Harmony's Edge into a massive bay that could have held 10 ships their size. As the bay doors closed behind them, Zethkri noticed that the walls were lined with defensive positions and automated gun turrets. "They're treating us like potential enemies," observed Nimara. "No," said Zethkri thoughtfully. "I don't think they're afraid of us. I think they're afraid of something else." But what? The humans had no known enemies. No hostile aliens had been detected in their region of space. Their own historical records showed they had achieved global peace decades ago. So why did they still build everything like they expected attack at any moment? The airlock opened with a soft hiss. A group of humans waited outside, all wearing the same military uniforms as Admiral Chen. Even the scientists and diplomats in the group carried small weapons on their belts. "Welcome to Luna Station," said a tall man with graying hair. "I am Dr. Marcus Webb, Director of Xenobiological Studies. We're very excited to meet you." As the two groups shook hands and exchanged formal greetings, Zethkri noticed something else strange. The humans were genuinely friendly and welcoming, but their eyes never stopped moving. They constantly scanned their surroundings, even in their own secure station. These were people who had learned to always watch for danger. During the tour of the station, Dr. Webb proudly showed them the medical facilities, the research laboratories, and the comfortable quarters prepared for the alien guests. But Zethkri kept noticing the military elements that the humans seemed to consider normal. Emergency weapon lockers in every hallway, blast doors that could seal off sections of the station in seconds, multiple backup power systems, escape pods in every residential area. Even the dining hall had reinforced walls and emergency exits. "Dr. Webb," Zethkri finally said, "your station is very impressive, but I notice extensive defensive preparations. Are you expecting trouble?" Dr. Webb looked surprised by the question. "Trouble? No, not specifically. This is just standard design protocol. Better to be prepared and not need it than to need it and not have it." "Prepared for what?" The human scientist paused as if the question had never occurred to him. "For anything, I suppose. You never know what might happen." That night, alone in his quarters, Zethkri reviewed the day's observations. The humans were intelligent, friendly, and technologically advanced. They had achieved remarkable things in a very short time, but they lived in a state of constant readiness for war. What had happened to these people to make them so afraid? What had they experienced that other species had not? Tomorrow, during the formal first contact ceremony, he would ask the question that had been bothering him since they entered human space. Why were humans so heavily armed when they had nothing to fight? The main conference room of Luna Station had been decorated with flags from both human nations and the various alien species. Soft music played in the background while diplomats from 24 worlds mingled and shared food from their home planets. Ambassador Zethkri watched the humans move through the crowd. They were polite and curious, asking intelligent questions about alien cultures and sharing stories about Earth. But even during this peaceful celebration, he noticed they maintained their military bearing. Their posture stayed alert. Their conversations included frequent references to defensive preparations and backup plans. "The humans are strange," whispered Counselor Nimara as she floated beside him in her energy form. "They speak of peace but think of war." "Not war," Zethkri corrected. "Protection. There's a difference, but I don't understand what they're protecting themselves from." Dr. Vexilon approached with a plate of human food. "I've been analyzing their technology," he said quietly. "Every system has multiple redundancies. Their ships can function even after losing 70% of their components. Their colonies have enough supplies stored to survive for years without outside contact." "Survival preparations," observed Zethkri. "But survival from what threat?" The formal ceremony began an hour later. Representatives from each species gave short speeches about friendship and cooperation. When Admiral Chen spoke for humanity, her words were warm and welcoming, but she also made several references to mutual defense and standing together against common challenges. What challenges? Zethkri wondered. The galaxy was more peaceful now than it had been in thousands of years. After the speeches, the groups broke up into smaller conversations. Zethkri found himself talking with Dr. Webb and several other human scientists about their research projects. "We're very interested in your terraforming technology," said Dr. Elena Vasquez, a planetary engineer. "We have 17 worlds in various stages of development, but we're always looking for ways to make the process faster and more reliable." 17 worlds? Asked Dr. Vexilon in surprise. "That's quite ambitious for a species that only reached space recently." "Well, you can never have too many backup options," Dr. Webb replied with a smile. "Backup options for what?" Nimara asked. The humans exchanged glances. "You know," said Dr. Vasquez slowly, "in case something happens to one of the others, Like what? Pressed Zethkri. Asteroid impact, solar flares, volcanic activity, plague, equipment failure, resource depletion. Dr. Webb listed them off casually. Any number of things could make a world uninhabitable. It's better to have multiple locations. The aliens stared at him. In their experience, once a world was properly terraformed and settled, it remained stable for millions of years. The idea of planning for planetary disasters seemed excessive. "Forgive me," said Commander Tal9, "but your preparations seem very thorough. Most species don't expect such catastrophic events." "Really?" Admiral Chen had joined their group. "How interesting. What do your worlds do about natural disasters?" "We prevent them," replied Nimara simply. "Weather control, geological stabilization, asteroid deflection systems, basic planetary management." "But what if those systems fail?" asked Dr. Webb. "They don't fail," said Dr. Vexilon. "Once properly installed, planetary management systems are completely reliable." The humans exchanged those looks again. Zethkri was beginning to recognize that expression. It was the look people gave when someone else said something incredibly naive. "Systems can always fail," said Admiral Chen gently. "Equipment breaks down. Computer programs have bugs. People make mistakes. Natural forces find ways around our defenses. That's why you need backups for your backups." "And weapons for your science stations?" asked Counselor Nimara pointedly. The room grew quiet. Several other conversations stopped as aliens turned to listen. Dr. Webb cleared his throat. "Well, you never know what you might encounter. Unknown threats, equipment that could be dangerous if it malfunctions, contaminated samples that need to be destroyed quickly. Every human facility we've observed is armed," Zethkri said carefully. "Every ship, every station, every colony. Even your civilian vessels carry military-grade weapons. This level of preparation suggests you're expecting a specific threat." Admiral Chen studied his face for a long moment. "May I ask you something, Ambassador? How many extinction events has your species survived?" "Extinction events?" Zethkri was confused. "None. Why would we need to survive extinction? Our homeworld has been stable for millions of years. How about yours?" Admiral Chen turned to Dr. Vexilon. "The Corvani homeworld has experienced minor climate fluctuations, but nothing threatening to our species." She looked at each alien in turn. None of them had ever faced planetary disasters that threatened their entire species. "I see," Admiral Chen said quietly. "That explains a lot." "Explains what?" asked Zethkri. Dr. Webb stepped forward. "Ambassador, with your permission, I'd like to show you something. A presentation about human history. But I should warn you, you might find it disturbing." The aliens looked at each other. They were scientists and diplomats, trained to handle difficult information. How disturbing could human history be? "We're prepared," said Zethkri confidently. "Are you sure?" asked Dr. Webb. "Because once you see this, you'll understand why humans approach everything the way we do. And frankly, it might change how you think about your own civilizations." Nimra floated higher, her energy form pulsing with curiosity. "We've studied hundreds of species' histories. We can handle whatever you want to show us." Dr. Vexilon nodded agreement. "As scientists, we're always interested in learning about different evolutionary paths." "Very well," said Dr. Webb. He gestured toward a presentation room adjoining the main hall. "But don't say I didn't warn you." As they walked toward the room, Admiral Chen fell into step beside Zethkri. "Ambassador, your species evolved on a peaceful world, didn't it? Stable climate, no major predators, gradual development over millions of years?" "Yes," Zethkri replied, "as did most spacefaring species. It's the typical pattern of civilization development." "Typical," Admiral Chen repeated thoughtfully. "Yes, I imagine it would be." They entered the presentation room where Dr. Webb was setting up a holographic projector. The lights dimmed as he prepared his materials. "Before we begin," Dr. Webb said, "I want you to understand that this isn't meant to frighten you or make you feel sorry for us. This is simply the reality of where humans come from and why we are the way we are." He activated the projector. The room filled with stars showing the Milky Way galaxy from a distance. "Every species has a story," Dr. Webb continued. "This is ours." The view zoomed in on a small yellow star at the edge of one spiral arm. A blue and green planet appeared, spinning slowly in the holographic light. "This is Earth," said Dr. Webb. "Our beautiful, beloved, utterly treacherous home." Dr. Webb touched a control, and the holographic Earth began to change. The continents shifted, The climate fluctuated and strange creatures appeared and disappeared across the surface. "Let me start 4 billion years ago," Dr. Webb said calmly. Earth was a hellish place. The atmosphere was poison. The surface was covered in lava. Asteroids and comets crashed into it constantly. But somehow life began. The aliens watched as simple organisms appeared in the ancient oceans, struggling to survive in the hostile environment. "Life on Earth has always been a battle against extinction," Dr. Webb continued. "The planet itself has tried to kill everything on it at least 6 times that we know of." The scene changed to show massive, volcanic eruptions covering entire continents with lava and ash. 250 million years ago, supervolcanoes in Siberia erupted for 2 million years straight. The ash and poisonous gases killed 96% of all life on Earth. "We call it the Great Dying." Counselor Nimara flickered with distress. 96%? How did anything survive? "Barely," replied Dr. Webb. "The few creatures that lived were the ones hiding in deep caves, underground burrows, or at the bottom of the ocean. They survived because they were prepared for the worst." The display showed the slow recovery of life, new species emerging from the survivors. But then another catastrophe struck. 65 million years ago, an asteroid 10 kilometers wide hit Earth. The impact released more energy than every nuclear weapon ever built, all exploding at once. It threw so much dust and rock into the atmosphere that the sun was blocked for years. The hologram showed a world plunged into darkness and cold. Massive creatures collapsed and died while smaller ones scurried into hiding places. "The dinosaurs ruled Earth for 165 million years, Dr. Webb explained. They were successful, powerful, and completely dominant. But they weren't prepared for something they'd never seen before." Ambassador Zethkri felt a chill run down his spine. The dinosaurs had ruled for longer than most entire civilizations existed, and they were wiped out in a single day. Of course, that wasn't the end, Dr. Webb continued. Life recovered again. New species evolved, but Earth wasn't finished testing them. The presentation showed ice ages that froze most of the planet, volcanic eruptions that changed the climate overnight, and more asteroid impacts. Each time most life died. Each time the survivors were the ones who could adapt quickly, hide effectively, or spread to multiple locations. "Humans evolved during the most recent ice age," Dr. Webb said. "Our ancestors survived by being smarter, more adaptable, and more prepared than anything else on the planet. They learned to make tools, control fire, and work together in groups." The scene shifted to show early humans huddled around fires in caves, making weapons from stone and wood. But even after humans became the dominant species, Earth kept trying to kill us. Plagues, natural disasters, climate changes, supervolcanic eruptions. Every generation faced some new threat to survival. Dr. Vexilon leaned forward in his chair. "This is why your species developed so quickly? You were constantly fighting for survival?" "Exactly," said Admiral Chen. "While other species had millions of years to develop slowly on stable worlds, humans had to innovate or die. We couldn't rely on our environment to stay the same, so we learned to change it ourselves." The presentation moved forward through human history. The aliens watched civilizations rise and fall, wiped out by disasters both natural and artificial. Diseases that killed half the population of entire continents, wars that devastated whole regions, famines that starved millions. "The Black Death killed 1/3 of Europe in 5 years," Dr. Webb narrated, as the hologram showed cities full of bodies. "The 1918 flu pandemic killed 50 million people worldwide. World War II killed 75 million in 6 years. But you survived," whispered Nimara. "How did your species continue after such losses?" "Because some humans were always somewhere else," Admiral Chen replied. "Some were immune to the disease. Some lived in remote areas the war never reached. Some had stored enough food to last through the famine. The ones who survived were the ones who were prepared." The presentation reached the modern era. The aliens saw the development of nuclear weapons, followed by decades of 2 superpowers threatening to destroy all human civilization. "For 50 years, we lived with the knowledge that our entire species could be extinct within 30 minutes, Dr. Webb said quietly. Children grew up practicing hiding under desks in case of nuclear attack. Governments built underground bunkers stocked with years of supplies. Everyone knew that human civilization hung by a thread. "But the nuclear war never happened," observed Dr. Vexilon. "No, but it could have. Several times we came within minutes of accidentally starting it." Computer glitches, communication failures, individual officers making wrong decisions. We survived the Cold War mostly by luck. The scene changed to show more recent threats. Climate change, asteroid tracking systems, pandemic monitoring networks, genetic engineering safeguards. Even today, Admiral Chen said, we know that extinction is always possible. Climate change could make Earth uninhabitable. A large asteroid could hit us tomorrow. A new disease could spread around the world in weeks. A supervolcano under Yellowstone could erupt and block out the sun for years. So you prepare for everything, said Zethkri, finally understanding. We prepare for everything we can think of, and then we prepare for the things we can't think of, Dr. Webb confirmed. That's why every human ship has weapons. Not to fight aliens or other humans, but to fight whatever unknown threat might appear. That's why every colony has multiple backup systems. Not because we expect them to fail, but because Earth taught us that everything eventually fails. The aliens sat in stunned silence as the presentation ended. In their experience, evolution was a gradual process on stable worlds. Species developed slowly, learned to cooperate, and eventually reached a peaceful technological civilization. But humans had been forged in a crucible of constant disaster. Every generation had faced extinction. Only the most adaptable, most prepared, and most stubborn had survived to pass on their genes and their culture. This is why you expand so quickly into space, said Counselor Nimara slowly. You're not exploring. You're fleeing. Both, Admiral Chen replied. We love Earth, it's beautiful, and it's our home. But we've learned that putting all your eggs in one basket is a good way to lose everything at once. Dr. Webb reactivated the hologram, showing the current human presence in space. Mars colonies, asteroid mining operations, research stations throughout the solar system, and generation ships under construction. We're not just expanding for resources or territory, he said. We're spreading out so that no single disaster can destroy our entire species. It's the same strategy that kept life alive on Earth for 4 billion years. And the weapons? Asked Zethkri. Protection against whatever we haven't thought of yet, replied Admiral Chen. In our experience, the universe is full of surprises. Most of them are unpleasant. The room fell quiet again as the aliens absorbed what they had learned. Humans weren't a primitive warrior species. They were the products of the most dangerous world in known space, shaped by billions of years of extinction events and narrow escapes. Their preparations weren't paranoid. They were practical. Their weapons weren't for conquest. They were for survival. And their rapid expansion into space wasn't greed. It was wisdom learned through countless disasters. I need some time to process this, said Zethkri quietly. Of course, Dr. Webb replied. It's a lot to take in, especially if you've never had to think about extinction as a real possibility. The alien delegation had requested a private meeting to discuss what they had learned. They gathered in a small conference room aboard Harmony's Edge, their ship still docked at Luna Station. The mood was somber. This changes everything, Counselor Nimara said, her energy form dimmed with concern. We assumed humans were primitive because they seemed violent. But they're not violent at all. They're just prepared. More than prepared, added Dr. Vexilon, reviewing his notes. They're shaped by survival pressures that no other known species has experienced. Look at these statistics. He projected data into the air. In the time it took my people to develop agriculture, humans went from discovering fire to building nuclear weapons. Ambassador Zethkri stared out the viewport at Earth, the blue and white planet spinning peacefully in the darkness. It looked so beautiful and calm. Nothing about it suggested the violent history Dr. Webb had shown them. I think we need to hear the rest, he said finally. Dr. Webb said that was just the beginning. There's something else they want to tell us. An hour later, they were back in the presentation room on Luna Station. This time, Admiral Chen had joined Dr. Webb, along with several other human officials. The humans looked serious, almost concerned. Before we continue, Admiral Chen said, I want to make sure you understand something. What we showed you yesterday was just Earth's natural history, the disasters that shaped human evolution. But that's not why we're really so heavily armed. The aliens exchanged glances. There was more. Dr. Webb activated the holographic projector again. This time it showed a detailed map of human space, with all their colonies, ships, and installations marked in blue dots. Let me ask you something, Dr. Webb said. How long did it take your species to develop interstellar travel after achieving spaceflight? For the Veltar, about 8,000 years, replied Zethkri. A normal development period. The Corvani took 12,000 years, added Dr. Vexilon. We developed very gradually, making sure each step was completely safe before proceeding to the next. The Ethereal Collective took 20,000 years, said Nimara. But we were transitioning from physical to energy forms during that time, which complicated things. Dr. Webb nodded. All very reasonable timeframes. Careful, safe development over many thousands of years. Now look at this. The display showed a timeline of human technological development. The aliens stared in disbelief at the numbers. Humans went from first flight to landing on their moon in 66 years, Dr. Webb said. From first computer to artificial intelligence in 70 years. From first nuclear reactor to fusion power in 80 years. We achieved interstellar travel 150 years after we learned to fly. That's impossible, breathed Dr. Vexilon. No species develops that quickly without destroying themselves. Most don't, Admiral Chen agreed. But most species don't have the motivation we do. The display zoomed in on Earth, showing detailed geological surveys, astronomical observations, and environmental monitoring systems. While you were taking thousands of years to carefully develop safe technologies, we were racing against time, Dr. Webb continued. Because we know something that you don't. What? Asked Zethkri, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to hear the answer. Earth is still trying to kill us, Admiral Chen said simply. The disasters haven't stopped. They're still coming. The hologram shifted to show current threats, a massive volcano under Yellowstone National Park that could erupt at any time and plunge the world into nuclear winter. Asteroids tracked by human monitoring systems, several of which would hit Earth in the coming centuries. Climate change caused by industrial development that could make large parts of the planet uninhabitable. The Yellowstone supervolcano erupts every 600,000 years, Dr. Webb explained. It's been 640,000 years since the last eruption. We're overdue. He highlighted other threats. Solar flares that could destroy all electronic technology. Gamma-ray bursts from distant stars that could strip away Earth's atmosphere. The gradual brightening of the sun that would eventually boil away the oceans. In your careful, gradual development, you had millions of years to work with, Admiral Chen said. We have centuries, maybe decades for some threats. That's why we developed so fast. That's why we're expanding so aggressively. We're running out of time. The implications hit the aliens like a physical blow. While their species had leisurely developed over geological time frames, humans were sprinting toward the stars because they knew their homeworld was doomed. This is why every human facility is armed, Dr. Webb continued. Not because we expect alien invasions, but because we expect everything. Equipment failures, natural disasters, unknown threats, cascade failures in complex systems. When you're living on borrowed time, you can't afford to be caught unprepared. He showed them the human Mars colonies. Each dome was surrounded by weapon emplacements, but now the aliens understood why. Not to fight other humans or aliens, but to defend against dust storms that could strip away solar panels, meteor impacts that could breach the domes, or equipment malfunctions that could turn life support systems into death traps. Look at our generation ships, Admiral Chen said, highlighting the massive vessels under construction in Earth orbit. They're built like battleships because space is hostile. Cosmic radiation, micrometeorites, equipment failures, navigational errors. A generation ship isn't just carrying people to another star. It's carrying human civilization into the unknown for centuries. But surely you've solved these problems now, said Counselor Nimara hopefully. Your technology is advanced. Your colonies are established. You must be safe now. The humans exchanged those looks again, the ones the aliens were learning to dread. Safe? Dr. Webb shook his head. We're never safe. Every solution creates new problems. Every success reveals new threats. The more we learn about the universe, the more dangerous it becomes. The display showed recent human discoveries. Quantum physics experiments that could theoretically destroy reality itself. Artificial intelligence development that could lead to human extinction. Genetic engineering that could create unstoppable plagues. Contact with alien civilizations that could bring unknown threats. Even this meeting, Admiral Chen said quietly, represents a potential existential risk. We don't know what diseases you might carry that we can't fight. We don't know what technologies you have that could be dangerous in the wrong hands. We don't know what enemies you might have who could follow you here. We're not your enemies, protested Zethkri. We know that, Dr. Webb replied gently, but enemies aren't the only threat. Good intentions don't prevent accidents. Friendly contact can still result in extinction. He showed them Earth's history with European contact in the Americas. Entire civilizations wiped out not by conquest but by diseases they had no immunity to. Well-meaning explorers who accidentally destroyed the people they met. This is why we approach everything carefully, Admiral Chen explained. Why we maintain defenses even during peaceful contact. Why we assume every new situation contains unknown dangers. Because in our experience, the universe is not a safe place and good intentions don't prevent disasters. The aliens sat in stunned silence. They had thought humans were paranoid and aggressive. Instead, they were discovering a species that had been forced to become the most cautious, most prepared, most survival-focused beings in the galaxy. How do you live like that? Whispered Nimara. Always expecting disaster? Always preparing for threats that might never come? How do you live without it? Admiral Chen replied. How do you sleep at night knowing that your entire civilization depends on systems that could fail? How do you make plans for the future without considering what could go wrong? Dr. Vexilon looked around the room, taking in the blast doors, emergency equipment, and weapon lockers that the humans considered normal. You've never experienced real safety, have you? He said slowly. Your entire species suffers from what we would call chronic anxiety disorder. Or, said Dr. Webb calmly, your entire species suffers from chronic overconfidence disorder. The room fell quiet. Outside the viewport, Earth continued its deceptively peaceful rotation, hiding the countless threats that had shaped the most careful species in the galaxy. Ambassador Zethkri stood alone in his quarters aboard Harmony's Edge, staring at the datapad in his hands. He had been trying to write his report to the Galactic Council for 3 hours, but the words wouldn't come. How do you explain to a galaxy of peaceful civilizations that they had discovered the most dangerous species in known space, and that species was also the most prepared, most careful, and most survival-focused beings they had ever encountered? A soft chime announced a visitor. Dr. Vexilon entered, looking as troubled as Zethkri felt. I can't stop thinking about it, Dr. Vexilon said without preamble. We've been wrong about everything. Every assumption we made about civilization development, every theory about species progression, every model of technological advancement. The humans broke all the rules, Zethkri agreed. They achieved interstellar capability while their homeworld was still actively hostile. They developed advanced technology in decades instead of millennia. They spread across space not for exploration or resources but for survival. Counselor Nimara materialized in the room, her energy form pulsing with agitation. I've been reviewing our contact protocols with other species, she said. Do you realize that every peaceful civilization we've encountered developed on stable worlds? Every single one. The implications were staggering. The galaxy was full of species that had never faced real existential threats. They had all evolved in safety, developed slowly, and reached the stars at their own pace. Earth was unique, a world that regularly attempted genocide against its own inhabitants. There's something else, Dr. Vexilon said quietly. I've been analyzing human expansion patterns. Look at this. He activated his own datapad, showing a projection of human space. The pattern was clear once you knew what to look for. Humans weren't expanding randomly or following resource maps. They were spreading in a careful web designed to ensure that no single disaster could destroy their entire species. Multiple colonies in different star systems, Dr. Vexilon explained. Each one capable of surviving independently. Generation ships heading in all directions. Research stations studying potential threats. They're not building an empire. They're building a survival network. A soft knock interrupted them. Admiral Chen stood in the doorway, looking somewhat embarrassed. I'm sorry to disturb you, she said, but we've received a priority alert from our asteroid monitoring system. Dr. Webb thought you might want to observe our response protocols. The aliens exchanged glances. Another asteroid? Asked Zethkri. A fairly large one, Admiral Chen replied. About 2 kilometers across on a collision course with Earth. It would hit in 6 months if we don't do anything. The casual way she said it sent chills down Zethkri's spine. To humans, potential extinction events were routine occurrences. They followed Admiral Chen to Luna Station's command center, where dozens of humans worked calmly at control stations. Large screens showed the trajectory of the approaching asteroid and the positions of human ships throughout the solar system. Asteroid designation 2157 Delta, announced a technician. Impact probability 97%. Estimated damage, global catastrophe, potential extinction event. Standard response protocol, replied Admiral Chen without emotion. Deploy Interceptor Fleet Bravo. Nuclear option authorized if necessary. Within minutes, 6 massive ships launched from hidden bays around the solar system. Each one was armed with enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. The aliens watched in fascination as the ships moved to intercept the asteroid with military precision. This happens often? Asked Dr. Vexlon. Every few years, Dr. Webb replied, joining them in the command center. Most asteroids we can deflect with gravity tractors or small charges to change their trajectory. This one is big enough that we'll probably have to destroy it completely. And if you miss? Asked Nimara. Dr. Webb gestured to another screen showing evacuation ships standing by near Earth and Mars. Underground bunkers on both planets are stocked and ready. Generation Ship Alpha could launch within 72 hours with 50,000 people and genetic samples from Earth's biosphere. Colony ships are fueled and waiting at Jupiter's moons. You're prepared to evacuate your entire species? Zethkri couldn't hide his amazement. We're prepared to continue our species, Admiral Chen corrected. Whether that's on Earth, Mars, or somewhere else entirely depends on how well our defenses work. On the main screen, the interceptor ships reached the asteroid. Brilliant flashes of light marked the detonation of nuclear weapons specifically designed for asteroid destruction. The massive rock broke apart into smaller pieces that would burn up harmlessly in Earth's atmosphere. Threat neutralized, announced the technician. All ships returning to station. The humans in the command center relaxed slightly and began their post-mission analysis. To them, preventing the extinction of their species was just another day at the office. Incredible, whispered Dr. Vexilon. You just saved your entire world and you're treating it like routine maintenance. Because it is routine, Dr. Webb replied. This is the 14th potentially dangerous asteroid we've dealt with this century. Probably won't be the last. Later, back in the conference room, the aliens struggled to process what they had witnessed. We need to revise everything, said Zethkri finally. Our threat assessment, our contact protocols, our understanding of human nature. What are you going to tell the Council? Asked Dr. Webb. Zethkri thought carefully before answering. That we found something unprecedented. A species that achieved interstellar civilization, not in spite of a hostile environment, but because of it. A people who learned to see the universe as it really is. Beautiful, wondrous, and utterly dangerous. And the weapons? Admiral Chen asked. Not directed at us, Zethkri replied. Directed at entropy itself. At the cosmic forces that try to drag everything back into chaos. You're not warriors, you're gardeners. Tending the small flame of consciousness in an infinite darkness. The humans looked surprised by his description. I never thought of it that way, Dr. Webb said slowly. But you're right. Everything we do is about keeping that flame alive. Counselor Nimara pulsed with sudden understanding. That's why you're so heavily armed. Not because you want to fight, but because you refuse to surrender. You've declared war on extinction itself. And we're winning, Admiral Chen said with quiet pride. So far. 3 days later, the alien delegation prepared to depart Luna Station. Their report to the Galactic Council was complete, though Zethkri doubted anyone would truly believe it until they saw humans for themselves. One last question, he said to Dr. Webb as they shook hands goodbye. What do humans want from the galaxy? What are your long-term goals? Dr. Webb smiled. We want everyone to survive. Every species, every civilization, every individual consciousness that has ever emerged from the cosmic darkness. We want to help them stay alive and keep growing and learning and creating. Even if they don't want your help? Even then, Dr. Webb replied. Because we know something that peaceful species have never had to learn. The universe doesn't care about your plans or your dreams or your civilizations. It will try to destroy everything you've built. And it will succeed unless someone is prepared to fight back. As Harmony's Edge pulled away from Luna Station, Ambassador Zethkri looked back at the heavily armed space station and finally understood what he was seeing. Not a fortress built for conquest, but a lighthouse built for survival. A beacon of defiance against the dark. Humanity had learned the hardest lesson in the universe. That existence itself is an act of rebellion against entropy, chaos, and death. They had armed themselves not to conquer the galaxy, but to defend it against threats that peaceful species couldn't even imagine. In his final report to the Galactic Council, Zethkri wrote, Recommendation: immediate alliance with humanity. They possess something we have lost in our millions of years of peace: the knowledge of how fragile life really is, and the determination to protect it at any cost. We may have grown wise in our safety, but they have grown strong in their struggle. The galaxy needs both. He paused, then added one final line. Threat assessment. Humanity poses zero danger to galactic civilization. Galactic civilization poses considerable danger to itself through complacency. Recommend immediate implementation of human-style survival protocols across all member worlds. The report would cause chaos in the Galactic Council. Peaceful species would struggle to understand why they needed weapons and backup plans for threats that had never materialized. But somewhere in the darkness between the stars, ancient forces stirred that cared nothing for peace treaties or diplomatic immunity. And when those forces finally revealed themselves, the galaxy would be very grateful that someone had been keeping watch in the dark, armed and ready for whatever came next. The humans called it being prepared. The rest of the galaxy would learn to call it salvation,